Level 1. The City Councilman. The first time you speak at a public meeting, 43 people are in the room and 31 of them are there about a pothole. You are 26. You grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a house with aluminum siding, and a dad who coached Little League and voted in every election, including the ones where nothing was on the ballot except a school levy that failed 4 times in a row. Your mom taught 3rd grade for 22 years and retired with a pension that covers the basics if the basics stay basic. You have a political science degree from Ohio State, $11,000 in student loan debt, and a genuine belief that local government is where real change happens. That belief will be tested repeatedly and specifically by the pothole. The pothole is on Medford Avenue. It has been there since February. It is now October. 3 separate residents have submitted repair requests. A woman named Dolores Kaufman has attended the last 4 council meetings exclusively to discuss this pothole. She has brought photographs. She has brought a petition with 61 signatures. She has brought, on one occasion, a measuring tape to demonstrate the pothole's diameter to the council in real time. You get the pothole fixed in your 2nd week in office. You do it by calling the Public Works Director directly, which is technically not how it is supposed to work. And the Public Works Director lets you know this in a tone that suggests you have approximately 1 more time to do this before it becomes a problem. Dolores Kaufman emails you. Thank you, sweetheart. You print it. It is the first piece of constituent mail you have ever received. It is taped inside the cover of your planner for the next 3 years. That email will be framed in your West Wing office in 22 years. Right now, it is held up by 1 piece of Scotch tape and a slightly optimistic interpretation of your own future. Your first council vote is on a zoning amendment for a mixed-use development on the east side. The developer wants 5 stories. The neighborhood association wants 3. The compromise is 4, which satisfies nobody, and is therefore the definition of local government working correctly. You vote yes. A man in the back row calls you a sellout on his way out the door. He's wearing a t-shirt from a band you liked in college. You do not mention this. Your office is a shared space in the municipal building. You split it with a councilwoman named Patricia, who has been in this seat for 11 years and knows where everybody is buried in City Hall. Metaphorically, and she implies once without elaborating, possibly literally. She teaches you 2 things in the first month. The first is that the city budget is a document that describes what the city wishes were true about its finances. The second is that the most dangerous person in any room is the one who controls the agenda. Marcus announces his run for city council the same week you vote on the zoning amendment. His family has been in Columbus real estate for 30 years. His father knows the mayor by first name. His announcement gets covered in the Business Journal. Yours got a paragraph in the neighborhood newsletter. 2 typos, and a photo where you are slightly out of focus. He wins the adjacent district by 12 points. His victory party is at a venue that has a valet. Yours was at a bar on 5th Avenue where the owner gave you the back room for free because his kid was in your mom's 3rd grade class. You both end up on the same budget subcommittee. He arrives at the first meeting in a suit that costs more than your monthly rent. He has already read the entire budget document, so have you. He introduces himself to the subcommittee chair first. You watch him do it. You watch the chair's face change the way faces change when they recognize a name that opens doors. You make a note of the chair's name and the exact sequence of that expression. That note goes in the planner next to Dolores Kaufman's email. Patricia watches you watching Marcus. She says nothing until after the meeting. Then, in the parking lot, pulling on her coat, the room always sees the name first. Your job is to make sure they remember the work second, because the work outlasts the name every single time. She gets in her car. She never repeats it. That sentence will win you a Senate confirmation in 14 years, but right now it just fixes your approach to subcommittee meetings. Level 2. The State Legislator. The Ohio House of Representatives has 99 members. 73 of them have been here longer than you. 4 of them are under 40. You are the youngest by 3 years and the only one who still takes public transit to the State House, which becomes a minor news story when a local reporter notices it and frames it as either refreshing or a liability, depending on which paragraph you're reading. You win your State House seat by 4 points in a district that hadn't flipped in 16 years. The night you win, your dad cries in the kitchen while your mom pretends she is not also crying. You stand in the middle of their living room with aluminum siding and a planner that has Dolores Kaufman's email in it, and you understand for the first time that this is actually happening. The State House smells like carpet cleaner and compromise. Your first bill is a workforce housing amendment, straightforward, bipartisan in theory, co-sponsored by a Republican from Dayton who believes in the policy and needs something to show his district before the primary. The bill dies in committee because the committee chair is close to a developer who does not want the amendment, and the developer plays golf with the speaker. And that is the entire explanation. No drama, no villain speech, just a bill-shaped hole where a policy used to be. And a committee chair who smiles at you in the hallway like nothing happened. Marcus announces his run for a state Senate seat in the same cycle you vote on the zoning amendment. His campaign spent 4 times what yours did. He has a full-time communications director. You have a part-time scheduler named Derek, who is also finishing his MBA and occasionally sends emails to the wrong people because he has too many browser tabs open. Marcus's first piece of legislation gets a press conference. The governor attends. It's a tax incentive package that primarily benefits commercial real estate developers, which you note in a memo you write to yourself and file in the planner. You sit on the education committee. You spend 18 months on a school funding formula that the state Supreme Court has declared unconstitutional 4 times since 1997, and that nobody has actually fixed because fixing it correctly requires taking money from wealthy districts and giving it to poor districts, which is both the right thing to do and the thing that ends political careers in certain zip codes. You find the version of the fix that is 90% correct and politically survivable. It passes. It is not perfect. Education advocates call it insufficient. The districts that benefit call it the first real change in a decade. You understand for the first time that governing is not the same as being right. Being right is available to anyone. Governing requires being right in a way that survives contact with the room. A woman named Sarah, who covers the State House, asks you after the vote whether you compromised your principles. You say, "I found the version of the principle that could actually become law." The version that stayed perfect stayed theoretical. She runs the quote. It gets picked up in 3 other outlets. Marcus texts you. Nice line. You do not respond. He has never texted you before. He is tracking you now. That is both the threat and the measurement. You file it next to the planner entry about the committee chair. Your romantic relationship of 3 years ends on a Tuesday in March when your girlfriend tells you she feels like she is in a relationship with your ambition and not with you. She is not wrong. You sit in the parking garage of the State House for 20 minutes because you don't know what to do with a feeling that large in a building that does not allow feelings. Then you go back inside for a floor vote on municipal broadband infrastructure. You vote yes. You drive home alone. The planner is on the passenger seat. Level 3. The U.S. Congressman. Washington, D.C. smells like ambition and recycled air. You arrive in January with a new suit from a Columbus department store that a senior staffer from Kentucky later describes as brave, which is not a compliment about the suit. The House of Representatives has 435 members. Freshman members are assigned office space on a lower floor in a building across the street from the Capitol. Your office is the size of a generous closet. Your chief of staff is 28 and has worked 3 previous congressional offices and knows more about House procedure than you will for at least 2 years. You hire her because she interviewed you harder than you interviewed her, and that felt like the correct dynamic. The first thing you learn about Congress is that most of the actual work happens in rooms that are not on C-SPAN. The floor votes are the product, the arguments, the deals, the agreements where someone trades a vote for agricultural subsidies for a co-sponsorship on infrastructure. That is the process. The process is invisible, and it is everything. You're assigned to the House Committee on Oversight and Reform, which sounds significant and occasionally is. Your first hearing, you ask a question that a lobbyist from a pharmaceutical trade group later describes to your chief of staff as surprisingly informed. Surprisingly, as if your geography resets every time the cameras arrive. It's a tax incentive package that primarily benefits commercial real estate developers, which you note in a memo you write to yourself and file in the planner. You spend your first term doing 3 things: learning the institution, building relationships with members who have the committee assignments you need in 3 years, and writing the Health Care Access for Working Families Act, which takes 14 months, 3 coalition meetings, 47 conversations with members across both sides of the aisle, and 1 Thursday night where your chief of staff sits across from you at 9:15 p.m. and says you are not going to get everything you want in this bill. Tell me what you cannot live without, and we will build from there. You tell her. She builds from there. The bill passes 226 to 209. It is the most significant piece of healthcare legislation in 4 years. The New York Times runs it on A4. Marcus gets A1 the same day for a speech about bipartisanship that references no specific legislation. Your dad calls. He has the paper. Both pages.
He reads the A4 headline out loud twice. You can hear him trying to keep his voice steady. You let him read it twice. The planner from Columbus is in your desk drawer. Dolores Kaufman's email is still in the cover. She sent you a card when you won the congressional race. It is taped next to the original email now.
Level 4. The Senator. The United States Senate has 100 members. You are one of them now, which means you're simultaneously one of the most powerful people in the country. Ohio sends you to the Senate with 54% of the vote in a race that the National Party didn't fully fund until the final 3 weeks when the internal polling shifted and suddenly everyone had believed in you the whole time. Your victory speech is in Columbus. Your parents are in the front row. Your dad is wearing the same sport coat he wore to every Little League game. Your mom is holding a handmade sign that she made herself and that is slightly crooked and that you will remember more clearly than any other visual from that night for the rest of your life. Senate seniority determines everything. Committee assignments, office space, the unspoken social architecture of who gets listened to in which rooms. You are junior, you perform junior. You arrive early to committee hearings. You read every bill completely. You ask questions that are specific enough to demonstrate preparation and deferential enough not to threaten the ranking members. Patricia's sentence from the Columbus parking lot runs underneath every hearing like a bass note. The room always sees the name first. Your job is to make sure they remember the work second. Marcus is now the senior senator from Ohio. You are the junior senator from Ohio. You share a state and a party and almost nothing else. He has been on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for 3 years. He has a book. It's sold reasonably well and is mostly about leadership, written in a way that suggests leadership is something you are born adjacent to rather than something you build from the inside of a parking garage at the State House on a Tuesday in March. A Senate confirmation hearing for a cabinet nominee. You are on the Judiciary Committee. The nominee is qualified and has said 3 things in public over the course of a 15-year career that are now being presented as a coherent ideology. You ask the nominee about prosecutorial discretion in federal drug sentencing. Your question takes 45 seconds. The answer takes 8 minutes. You follow up with a question that the ranking member later said was the sharpest exchange of the hearing. Politico runs a clip. 300,000 views. Marcus texts you again. Good hearing. You text back, thanks. It is the most you have exchanged since the Budget Subcommittee in Columbus. Foreign policy. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee invites you for a briefing on a regional conflict that has been described publicly as contained and is described in the briefing as significantly less contained. You ask a question that nobody in the room has asked yet because it requires connecting 3 separate classified briefings from different agencies that you have read individually but that nobody has put in the same sentence. The briefing officer stops, looks at his notes, looks at you, answers the question in a way that changes the temperature of the room. You do not mention it publicly. You file it in the planner, which at this point has a second volume. The bill that defines your Senate career takes 2.5 years, a comprehensive workforce and education investment package, community college funding, apprenticeship tax credits, rural broadband expansion, and a retraining program for workers and industries the economy has structurally left behind. It is not a perfect bill. The perfect version of this bill failed twice already. This version can pass. You find the 41 votes you need through a combination of genuine policy alignment, strategic amendment offers, and one very specific conversation with a senator from Montana in a Senate hallway at 7:45 in the morning about what the bill does for timber workers. The bill passes 61-39. The president signs it. You are not in the photograph because you are standing one person too far to the right and the crop gets you. Your chief of staff sends you the uncropped version. It is on your phone. It is enough. Level 5. The candidate. Running for president begins not with an announcement, but with a conversation in a windowless room with 4 people who know where the money is and whether your name can raise it. The room is in Washington. The 4 people are a pollster, a fundraiser, a former campaign manager who ran 2 presidential campaigns and lost one of them in a way that everyone has a theory about, and your chief of staff, who has followed you from the House to the Senate, and who has the specific expression of someone who already knows how this conversation ends and is waiting for you to catch up. The pollster presents first. Name recognition is at 42% nationally, 68% in Ohio,
31 in Iowa. Favorability among the demographic profile you need, working-class voters, college-educated suburban women, black voters under 45, is positive and soft, meaning people like you and haven't thought hard about you yet, which is both an opportunity and a deadline. The fundraiser presents second. The donor base that would move to you is real. It is not the same donor base that moves to Marcus. Marcus announced 3 months ago. He has $47 million. His campaign headquarters is in Midtown Manhattan. He has a campaign logo designed by a firm in Brooklyn that works exclusively with consumer brands and one previous presidential campaign. The logo looks like a luxury hotel's monogram. You announce from Columbus. Outdoor venue, October morning. Your parents in the front row again. Your dad's sport coat. 2,200 people. The speech runs 23 minutes and contains no moment that will be described as historic, and contains no line that will be replayed on cable news, and contains a specific, detailed, policy-grounded argument for what this country can become if it decides to invest in the people the economy has been deciding to leave behind. The clip that goes viral is not from the speech. It is from after the speech, when a 12-year-old girl in the crowd holds up a sign that says, "Rank 0 to President," and you stop on the rope line and spend 4 minutes talking to her and her father while the advance team waits and your communications director silently calculates whether this is a moment or a delay. It is a moment. 14 million views in 48 hours. Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina. The primary calendar is a physical experience, 4 hours of sleep. Fluorescent lit diners at 7 a.m., town halls and school gymnasiums with folding chairs and American flags, and people who have genuine questions, and people who have prepared statements, and people who are there because there is nothing else to do in this town on a Tuesday, and this seems like the most interesting Tuesday in a while. You answer every question completely. Your pollster says this is inefficient. You do it anyway. Marcus wins New Hampshire by 6 points. His campaign calls it a mandate. It is 6 points in a state of 1.3 million people in February, which is a win and not a mandate. But the difference between a win and a mandate is primarily the confidence with which you describe it to a camera. Super Tuesday. 14 states. You win 7, he wins 7. The race is exactly what nobody wanted it to be, a contest that will not resolve itself early, that will go to the convention, that will require one of you to find delegates the other hasn't locked yet. That process takes 11 weeks. You find them. The nomination is yours by 412 delegate votes. Marcus concedes on Wednesday. The call lasts 4 minutes. He says the right things in the right order. You thank him. He says, "Don't waste it." You mean it. You're not sure he believes you. You're not sure it matters. Level 6. The president-elect. There are 77 days between winning the election and being sworn in. 77 days to build a government from scratch while also pretending to be calm. The general election runs from August to November. Your opponent is a 2-term governor from Texas who is disciplined and well-funded and believes in approximately 4 things with absolute conviction and approximately nothing else, which makes him both formidable and legible. You win 287 electoral votes. You win Ohio by 3 points. You win Pennsylvania by 1.4. You lose Florida, which your pollster told you you were going to lose in August, and which you refused to fully accept until election night at 11:47 p.m. when the call comes in and it turns out your pollster was right about Florida in the same way he was right about everything else you didn't want to hear. Your mom calls at 12:30 a.m. after the networks call it. She has been awake since 5 a.m. She says your name 3 times before she says anything else. Just your name. The way she said it the first day of 3rd grade, and the day you got into Ohio State, and the night you won city council, and every level in between. The same 2 syllables carrying whatever the current version of everything is. You sit with that for longer than the 77 days have room for. The transition office is a building in Washington with bad coffee and very good briefings. Every morning at 7 a.m. you receive intelligence that the previous version of you, the senator, the congressman, the city councilman with the pothole, did not have access to, and that recontextualizes approximately 40% of your previous understanding of how the world works. You sit with these briefings the way you sat with the classified foreign policy briefing in the Senate, making connections between documents that were never meant to be in the same sentence, and writing notes in Volume 3 of the planner. Cabinet selection. Every appointment is a negotiation between the person who is best for the job and the coalition that needs to see itself represented in the government, and the Senate confirmation math, and the specific chemistry of a room where everyone will eventually disagree about something under enormous pressure, and the question is not whether they will disagree, but whether they will do it productively. You pick 12 people. You compromise on 3 of them. You do not compromise on the other 9. Your chief of staff, who is now your incumbent chief of staff, tells you the 3 compromises are the right 3 compromises. She has been right before.
Marcus is not in the cabinet. His name came up twice in transition discussions. Both times you made a different decision. He is aware of this. He issues a statement of congratulations that is warm and specific, and that contains, in the 4th paragraph, a sentence about his commitment to continued public service that is doing a different kind of work than the rest of the statement. You read it 4 times. You understand the 4th paragraph. You file it. The planner goes into the briefcase. That goes into the motorcade that goes to the Capitol on January 20th. Level 7. The President. The oath takes 35 seconds. The wait takes longer. You place your hand on a Bible that belonged to your grandmother, who came to this country at 22 with $40 in a suitcase and who died before you won city council, but who your mother says would have taken full credit for everything that followed. The Chief Justice reads. You repeat. 20 words that have been repeated by 46 people before you in this exact spot, each of them arriving with a different version of the country and a different theory of what it needed. The speech runs 18 minutes. You wrote the last 2 paragraphs yourself at 2 a.m. the night before. Every other speech in your career has been written by someone else and shaped by you. These 2 paragraphs are yours. They are about your parents. They are about a pothole on Medford Avenue. They are about the 12-year-old girl with the sign that said rank 0 to president. They do not mention any of this by name. They do not need to. The Oval Office is smaller than it looks on television, which everyone tells you and which you do not fully believe until you're standing in it at 3 p.m. on January 20th, with the door closed and the resident staff gone, and the first briefing that for another 40 minutes. You stand there. The desk is the Resolute desk. It has been used by every president since Rutherford Hayes. You put your hands on it the way a craftsman checks a surface. You sit down. You are the President of the United States. The planner is in the desk drawer. You put it there yourself. The first crisis arrives in the 3rd week. It is not the crisis anyone predicted. It is never the crisis anyone predicted. A regional banking failure with contagion risk that the Treasury Secretary describes in a briefing as manageable with immediate action and potentially not manageable without it. You make 4 decisions in 90 minutes. 2 of them are the right decisions. 1 of them is the wrong decision that becomes correct when circumstances change in a way nobody foresaw. 1 of them is the wrong decision that stays wrong and that you will spend the next 18 months correcting through a series of subsequent decisions that cost political capital you had budgeted for other things. Governing from the Oval Office is different from governing from every previous position in a specific way that nobody prepares you for. Every decision has a constituency that benefits and a constituency that doesn't, and both of them have a press operation, and both press operations have access to the 24-hour news cycle, and the news cycle has access to your approval rating, and your approval rating has access to your legislative agenda, and your legislative agenda has access to the decisions you can make, and the decisions circle back to the constituencies and the press operations and the approval rating in a loop that runs continuously and that you're standing in the center of every day for 4 years. Marcus announces his Presidential Exploratory Committee 18 months into your first term. The announcement is covered as a challenge. The coverage describes him as formidable. It describes your approval rating, which is at 48% following a difficult legislative quarter, as vulnerable. You read the coverage on a Sunday morning in the residence. You eat breakfast, you go to your national security briefing, you do not discuss Marcus with your staff for 6 days, which your chief of staff correctly interprets as you processing something, and your communications director incorrectly interprets you as being unbothered. The legislative achievement of your first term is a clean energy and infrastructure package that takes 22 months to negotiate and that passes the Senate 52 to 48, and that is immediately described by supporters as not enough and by opponents as too much, which is the specific confirmation that you have found the version of the policy that can actually survive.
The president who signed the last major infrastructure bill did it standing at a table surrounded by legislators in hard hats. You signed this one at a desk in the Roosevelt Room with 11 people in the room and your chief of staff and a pen from the desk of a city councilman who once fixed a pothole by calling the public works director in a way that was technically not how it was supposed to work. Your mom is in the Roosevelt Room. She is holding a slightly crooked sign that she has updated one final time. You almost lose your composure when you see it because it is the funniest and most accurate thing you have ever seen a person do with a piece of poster board. You sign the bill. You hand her the pen. She puts it in her purse. That is the correct place for it. Level 8. The second term. You win re-election by a wider margin than the first. Marcus does not make it out of the primary. He withdraws on a Tuesday in March, the same month, the same day of the week as the parking garage at the State House, which you notice and do not mention to anyone. His withdrawal statement is brief and correct. He says the right things. He endorses you. He does not use the word reluctantly, but the fourth paragraph does a similar kind of work to the cabinet congratulations statement from 4 years ago. You read it once, you put the phone down, you go back to the daily brief. Second terms are different. The coalition that elected you the first time has specific expectations about the second term that are mutually incompatible in several areas. You spend the first year of the second term managing the incompatibility. You spend the second year governing through it. You spend the third year watching the party begin the process of deciding what comes after you, which is both constitutionally correct and psychologically strange. Being present for the active selection of your own replacement while still being responsible for the country. The foreign policy crisis of the second term takes 11 weeks to resolve and requires you to make a decision that you know is right and can't fully explain publicly without compromising the intelligence that makes you certain it is right. You make the decision. The editorial board split. Your approval rating drops 6 points. 3 months later, the situation resolves in the way the decision was designed to produce. The editorial boards do not revisit the columns. The approval rating does not recover those 6 points. You add this to the permanent inventory of things that are true that nobody will write about. Your chief of staff leads in year 6 to take care of a family member. She has been with you since the house. She has been right about more things than anyone you've ever worked with. Her departure is announced on a Friday afternoon, which is when you announce things you want to land quietly. The announcement does not land quietly. It lands as a story about stability and continuity and what it means for the final 2 years. None of the coverage mentions that she called you the night before to make sure you were okay with the timing. You were. You told her to go. You meant it. You sit in the Oval Office for 20 minutes after she leaves the building for the last time, and you do not call anyone. The final State of the Union. 8 years in, 45 minutes. The speech is good. The chamber is full. You have delivered this address 8 times now in this room, which means you have watched 8 different versions of the same audience process 8 different versions of what the country is and what it owes the people in it. Tonight, the chamber feels different in a way that is either meaningful or a projection. You decide it is both. The last 2 paragraphs of the speech are yours again. You wrote them at 2 a.m. They are about a 3rd grade teacher with a pension that covers the basics if the basics stay basic. They are about a public works director who was technically correct that there was a right way and a wrong way to get a pothole fixed. They are about the version of this country that shows up when the cameras are there, but when the work is happening and nobody's watching. You do not mention Dolores Kaufman by name. She passed away in year 4 of the first term. Her daughter emailed. You wrote back the same day. It took 40 minutes to write 6 sentences. They were the right sentences. Level 9. Former President. Tuesday. No briefing, no motorcade, no daily schedule delivered by 7 a.m. First Tuesday without the weight of the office in 8 years. The house in Columbus has aluminum siding. Your parents are older. Your dad's sport coat fits differently. Your mom's signs are in a box in the spare room. Every version, every election, every update. You sit at the kitchen table where you did homework and where your dad signed permission slips and where your mom graded papers on Saturday mornings, and you drink coffee that is not as good as the White House coffee, and you do not mind at all. The library takes 3 years to build. It is in Columbus, on the east side, 1 mile from Medford Avenue. The building was designed by an architect from Ohio who grew up 2 neighborhoods over from where you grew up, which was not a requirement of the selection process and is not mentioned in the press materials, and is something you know, and that is sufficient. The opening is attended by 4,000 people, and 2 former presidents, and 1 current president, and your mom, who brings a sign.
Marcus is on cable news now, comfortable in a suit the way he has always been comfortable in everything. He says your name on air occasionally. He describes your administration as consequential. He uses the word underestimated in a segment about your legacy, which is the most honest thing he has said about you in 30 years of parallel careers. You watch 12 seconds of it. You text him, underestimated? He responds with a laughing emoji. Then, you know what I mean. You do. He means the world was always going to see him first and you second, and nothing either of you did change that. And the fact that you won anyway is the part that doesn't fit neatly into a cable news segment about consequential administrations. You put the phone down. The park on the east side of Columbus, resurfaced. A mural on the wall, you in the Oval Office, resolute desk, the pen in your hand. The artist got the desk right. The artist got the suit right. The artist got the window light coming in from the left, which is accurate. The artist did not get the planner in the desk drawer. That detail was not in the briefing materials. That detail is yours. A kid at the park, 14. She is doing homework on a bench near the mural. She looks up when you walk past. She looks at the mural. She looks back at you. She does not say anything for 4 seconds. Then, is that actually you? You say yes. She looks back at the mural. You look different. You say you are. She goes back to her homework. You sit on the next bench over. The planner is in your jacket pocket. Volume 4 now. Same cracked spine as Volume 1, held together with a rubber band that replaced the original binding sometime in the second term. Dolores Kaufman's email is still in the front cover, 2 pieces of Scotch tape. It has held for 26 years. You do not know what finished means yet when there is nothing left to prove. You are starting to think finished might not be the right word. You are starting to think the word might be ready. Ready for the thing after the thing. Ready for the version of the work that does not require a motorcade or a briefing or an approval rating. Ready for the Tuesday with no schedule, where you sit at the kitchen table and drink mediocre coffee and watch your dad read the newspaper and your mom grade papers that she volunteers to grade now because she cannot stop, and you understand that she cannot stop for the same reason you cannot stop. The mural is for them. The real version is for you. The planner goes back in the pocket. The kid on the bench has finished her homework. She packs up her bag. She walks past the mural on her way out of the park. She glances at it once. She does not stop. She has somewhere to be. That is the whole point. If this one stayed with you, subscribe